Okay. Hi there, everyone. I'm delighted to be here talking to you today about sociology at Queen's University Belfast. I'm going to run through some slides and just let everybody know about the program we have here, give you a rough idea of what studying sociology is about, how we do it, the kind of subjects and modules that you'll take here, the kind of jobs you can get with a degree in sociology, and a few other things like that. So we'll just go on to it. So my name is Dr. Jonathan Heaney. I'm a lecturer in sociology here at Queen's University Belfast, but I'm also the program director for sociology at Queen's as well. And as program director, I kind of have an overview and oversight of the undergraduate teaching in particular. So that's kind of my responsibility for now. So as I'll say at the end, if you have any questions, do feel free to get in touch with me about sociology and taking a sociology degree here. There are a couple of reasons why I think studying a degree in sociology at Queen's would be a good idea. Queen's itself is an excellent place to study for your undergraduate degree. Queen's is a member of the Russell Group of the top 24 research-intensive UK universities. It's ranked in the world's top 250 universities on the most recent rankings, and it's in the top 140 in the world for graduate prospects. Perhaps importantly as well, for a lot of people who are not from Belfast itself, Belfast has the lowest student rent in the UK. And it's a very kind of inexpensive place to live and to study. So they're really kind of good things to bear in mind and good practical reasons when you think about where you're going to do your degree and what you're going to do it in. Queen's is great. Queen's also has had a very significant investment in infrastructure over the past 10 years or so. So something in the region of £700 million has been invested in buildings and other infrastructure. And we have some of the best facilities in any university in the UK or Ireland. And I might talk about a couple of those individual aspects later, but in particular, I'll mention it now as I see it in the photo, is the Maclay Library. Maclay is a fantastic library that we have very close to the School of Sociology or Social Sciences. It has like over 2 million books and other resources and over 2,000 seats for students to study and read and do their work. So it's an excellent resource that we have right on the doorstep of where the sociology teaching and lectures happen. Okay, so some of you watching this at the moment may have studied sociology already. You may be studying sociology for your A-level. Some of you may have never studied sociology, but you may be interested in studying it at university. But what is sociology? Okay, so sociology is a social scientific discipline. It's maybe the queen of the social sciences in many ways. And ultimately, it's the scientific study of social life. Okay, that sounds a little bit abstract, right? When I say that sociology is about the explanation and understanding of social action. Social action is any action or thing that human beings do that is meaningful. So it's a basic definition of social action. It's meaningful action that human beings engage in. What sociology is about then is explaining that social action, the things that we do and think and feel and say, and trying to understand the reasons for the things that we do and say and feel and think. Ultimately, it's about it's a study and a scientific study and a rigorous kind of empirical study of how society works, how individuals are fundamentally social beings. So very often our kind of default engagement with the world is as individuals, that we are ourselves alone and isolated and individual in the world. We're born alone and here we are. The thing about sociology tries to kind of keep to the forefront is that despite the fact that we feel like we're very individual, we're fundamentally social. We speak language, we're born into social groups at particular times in particular places. And all of those things, that unique particularity of human individual life is fundamentally structured and constituted by being in relationships with other people. We're born into families, two parents, in a specific society with a specific language and culture and history. And all of that goes into shaping who we are as individuals. So that relationship between the individual and the group or individuals in society is really one of the fundamental aspects that sociology tries to explain and understand. So some of the things and the concepts that we use to try and do that are involve looking at social structures and how social structures impact on individuals and groups differently in different times and places. Social structures could be a lot of things, but one thing to think about here might be social norms. Okay, a social norm might be considered an example of social structures. So could laws or rules. Okay, but take social norms. If I walk down the street picking my nose, that is considered a kind of a breach or a violation of social norms. So I grew up in a specific place where picking your nose in public is frowned upon and considered kind of taboo or not a nice thing to do. Okay, that's one example. I'll come back to other examples as we go on. So we're interested in kind of studying and explaining how we act, how we interact, and ultimately how we relate to others. And because of that interaction, that relation to others, we tend to form collectivities and organizations or institutions or groups. And that is really the fundamental kind of part of the distinctive thing about sociology. In a sense, if we look at what's distinctive about sociology, we might like to say that in the main, not exclusively, but in the main, society, brains and minds at the individual level. By contrast, sociologists tend to study individuals, but as they relate to and are formed by relationships and groups. And we tend to view this at various levels. So we can look at the relationships between the sexes or genders. We can look at communities. We can look at social classes like the very rich, the working class, the middle class, and how they relate to each other. But we can also look at regions and countries and, importantly, comparisons between countries at an empirical level. So this is the key kind of distinctive aspect of sociology, is that it's not just looking at the individuals, but it's looking at the relationships between individuals. That's its key kind of orientation towards scientific life and scientific study. And as a kind of a social science, we use a series of methods and data sources to engage in this kind of scientific work. We use observations, conversations and interviews, statistics, photographs, maps, documents. Social media increasingly is an important source of data to try and understand the relationship between individuals and groups as well, and lots of other things. We use literature and things as well to try and understand social life in various ways. Okay, so one key aspect of this discipline of sociology is what the American sociologist C. Wright Mills called the sociological imagination. And this is a kind of the distinctive lens through which sociologists try to view and study the social world. Mills says that the sociological imagination tries to connect the personal troubles of the milieu or a particular time and place to public issues of social structure. Again, it's about the connection and relationship between the individual and the social structures and context and society within which they live. Elsewhere, he says that sociology and the sociological imagination is fundamentally bound up with linking history and biography and the relationships between these two things in society. So if history is kind of all of the changes that are happening at a cultural and structural level, and the individual's lived life or biography is happening at this level, both of these levels interact fundamentally and importantly. The sociological imagination is the kind of the specific scientific and social scientific discipline that allows for the exploration of both history and biography and how that goes into form our core social selves. He says this link between history and biography is the core task and the core promise of sociology and the sociological imagination. Because of this connection between history and biography, between structure and agency, between the individual and society, sociology is a multidimensional approach, and this differentiated from other disciplines and approaches. So it's also critical, and by critical, I don't just mean negative. The word critical is a key concept or idea in sociology, but it just doesn't mean saying that something is bad or wrong. That's not the idea. That's not the way we use the word critical. Critical here means evaluative. It means it's trying to understand why things are the way they are, why they're not something else. It tries to judge and find out and dig behind the surface appearance of things to see the real reasons and explanations for the way the world is and why we relate to each other the way we do. So it's a multi-level explanatory social science. To do this, to engage in sociological research, we use key sociological concepts, and we have key kind of areas of study here at Queen's and in sociology more generally. Key concepts, for instance, are power. The concept of power for some people is the core or key concept of the social sciences as such, because if you think about what power is, when we think about social power or political power, it's about relationships between individuals and groups. Okay, some people have more power than other people. Power here means that they can do what they want to do in the face of opposition. It's a key kind of a basic understanding of what power is. A has power over B to the extent that A can get B to do something they would not otherwise do. In this context, A has power over B. If we look at the world around us, and I suggest that we all should be looking at the world around us, we see power everywhere. Relations of power exist in families, between parents and children, between husbands and wives, and wives and wives, and husbands, between teachers and students, between friends and friend groups. Some people within your peer group, within your friend group, will have more power over others within that group. The thing about power is that it's not just a description that we like to engage in, right? It's not just something neutral that we say, this is the way the world is. Because some people have more power than others, there are implications of those power relationships. And these are, again, part of what sociologists try to uncover or unveil or explore or explain. Why do some groups or people have power, and what are the implications of their use or exercise of power? Other concepts that we use and study, and you would study if you come to study sociology with us here, are key issues like social class, especially social inequality is a key concern of the discipline and of our teaching here at Queen's. And social inequality and why there is social inequality, and explaining social inequality, and maybe ways to get around or fix or cure social inequality are part of what we're about in our courses and modules in sociology. We also look at culture. We have courses on gender and sexuality. One key area, and maybe two key areas of research within the school that sociology is in, concern religion and political sociology. The sociology of religion is a very old and very well-developed discipline or sub-discipline within sociology. And particularly for here, for Northern Ireland, religion and the social implications of religion are a very important area of study. But not only here, also globally, in relation to Islam, Christianity, but also new social movements as well, yoga, Kabbalah, and so on. And we have people working and researching in all of these areas. The second one I mentioned there was political sociology. And that, again, that's a key kind of a focus of research for many of us, including myself, within the team, the teaching team in sociology. Related to that, we also have people working on things like family and intimate relationships, social order, how societies are structured and maintain some sort of form of order or continuity through time. But also we look at and try to explain how societies change over time. And if we look at any given society at any given time, it's a combination of those two things. It's ordered in the sense that it has a kind of a pattern or structure that we can study and explain and understand. But also, at all the time, society is undergoing fundamental changes. And how those changes come about can be linked with social movements and political movements. My own work, which I'll just mention briefly, is on the political sociology of emotion. So these are two kind of sub-disciplines that I try to bring together in my own research. Okay, so power and emotion are two fundamental concepts for my approach to doing sociology. And I try to look at how power and emotion interact. We can look at, even if we go back to one of the examples I just mentioned about relationships within families and power relationships within families or within friend groups. If you have power relationships within all friend groups, when people exercise power over the other, very often my claim is that there are emotional outcomes. If somebody is more dominant within a relationship, that can lead to maybe negative emotions on the person at the receiving end of that power. Sadness, fear, and anger, maybe shame and guilt. Feeling emotions and this connection between emotions and power, I think, are really important for understanding what we do in our lives, how we feel, how we think, and the kind of people we are. So the political sociology of emotions that I'm working on at the moment tries to connect some of these ideas to the world of politics. If we look at people like Trump or the rise of populism or some of the reasoning and reasons behind the Brexit vote in the UK, we can see that populist political actors and political leaders have perhaps increasingly used emotional rhetoric and emotions to rise or arouse the interests of citizens at different times in different places. If we look at some of Trump's speeches, for instance, how he engages in political discourse is very mobilizing and very emotional. What is the power of using emotion within politics like this? What are the implications of an increasingly emotional political life and reality? These are questions I think about in one of my third year courses that I will talk about in a little while. So all of these concepts, all of these areas and approaches, emotion, power, class, inequality, gender, religion, family, order and change, they're all really central to understanding Northern Ireland specifically. The UK and Ireland, this weird little the North Atlantic archipelago that has a long history and some complex relationships that are also bound up with power and emotion, is a very interesting place to study sociology because it is kind of unique or one of very few places that is at the same time can be understood from a conflict, post-conflict perspective as a divided society, but also a shared society. And the implications of Brexit here are particularly interesting and something that we're trying to think about and wrestle with as well. And, you know, what has happened in Northern Ireland before Brexit, what will happen in Northern Ireland after Brexit? These are all questions for sociology and sociologists, and some of the team are working on exactly these type of questions. So these are some of the reasons you should study sociology at Queen's. There are kind of more nuts and bolts reasons as well, I guess. Sociology at Queen's ranks in the top 200 sociology departments or programs in the world. And that was in 2019. We also have a really interesting and exciting program. Okay, we did a fundamental revision of the program back in 2018. And as part of that, we revised some of the courses and modules, some of the approaches, and we also made new connections with some other universities in the world as well. So we have really kind of well-established study abroad and Erasmus programs that I in particular and others in the school are really keen to promote for students. COVID notwithstanding, and hopefully by the time you guys do come to study sociology with us here, travel will be easier, and I'm hoping that as many of our students as possible actually consider something like Erasmus. And it's never too early to start thinking about that. By Erasmus, I mean you can study abroad in a European university for a term, for instance, maybe in your second year, whether or not you have a language or not, because most of the teaching there tends to be done through English. And that can be a really powerful formative experience for students at university. And there's a tendency, particularly for Northern Irish students, not to travel abroad. I think the kind of tendency to stay at home a little bit. And I'm trying to shake people out of that. I think they're going away as a student, because being a student is a fantastic opportunity. It is maybe the best time of your life to travel. And we have good connections with other universities and lots of supports in place to kind of help you go and study in Germany or France or Spain, or even Dublin, if you want to. We also have fantastic staff and a fantastic team. I might talk a little bit about them later as well when I talk about some of the courses that we teach. But we have a really world-leading international team. So we have people teaching on the sociology program from all over the world. And they're also world-renowned researchers, professors and lecturers. And that's a key aspect of what we do here as well. One other key kind of distinctive feature of sociology at Queen's is that it's only one of 17 Q-STEP centres in the UK. The Q-STEP centres are quantitative methods training centres, effectively. And what they are designed to do is kind of promote and address the shortage of quantitatively skilled social science graduates. And that's a focus of the program, the sociology program at Queen's. And there are ways in which you can, if you have the aptitude and interest in quantitative methods, you can focus on that throughout your degree. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes as well. Okay, Now, so why study sociology at Queen's? Well, I've mentioned a lot of the reasons. I think it's interesting. It's about the world around you. There are global opportunities, study abroad opportunities, a fantastic body of staff teaching and working on the program. But even more concretely still, and more in a more general sense, Sociology at Queen's really does equip you with a key set of skills that are very attractive to a whole and wide range of careers in the 21st century. These skills come in different shapes and sizes in a sense. So one of the key features of the program is qualitative and quantitative research methods. So there you have, particularly in your second year, we try to bed in both qualitative and quantitative methods, and they are very useful kind of analytical and intellectual approaches to the study of social science and social life and social science data. And they're very transferable to a large body of other jobs, even if you don't become a social scientist yourself in the future. A second key aspect of the skill set that we try to kind of embody within the sociology program involves theory. All of the courses and modules on the program will, to some extent, engage with sociological theory, such as abstract thinking, critical reasoning, problem solving, concepts, and thinking and interpreting texts. But in particular, again, in second year, I teach the core social theory program. It's called The Power of Social Theory. And I try to impart some of the historical development of social theory within the discipline of sociology from the 19th century up to the 21st century. Again, the skills that you will learn reading and thinking about these core conceptual and theoretical issues are useful for the study of sociology, the design, and delivery of social science and sociological research, but they're highly generalizable and applicable to a whole series of other disciplines and other jobs and careers. The ability to critically read and think, to parse complex information, to take it on board, interpret it, and produce something on the basis of it is a skill you will use in practically any or every serious job that you might be interested in taking. We also try and teach data collection and the analysis and interpretation of data. So from that, particularly for the single honours program in sociology, through your dissertation in third year, you get to conduct an individual research project in third year and write up conclusions and recommendations on the basis of your own research. Okay. In all of the courses, the modules and the programs that we have, the expression and communication of ideas is a core skill. So clear thinking, clear writing, and clarity in thinking and writing are something that we are very enthused about teaching across all the years and all the modules. Ultimately, what all of these skills are about is a kind of an orientation to the world. What Sociology at Queen's will try and embed in you as at a dispositional level is a critical approach to the world around you and a form of critical thinking. Once you're orientated to the world, and that's something I'll maybe talk at the end again, in a critical, evaluative way, that you don't take anything for granted, that you question, that you look for evidence and reasoned arguments in support of different positions. Once you have that within you, the world looks differently. You begin to see behind the appearance of things to the reason and the power and the injustice maybe and the inequalities behind the appearance of things. Because of that focus on critical thinking and a critical engagement with the world, our aim ultimately, rather than producing fantastic graduates that will get jobs, is to produce critically engaged citizens and future leaders. They are the core skills. All of these kind of specific skills together, tied to a critical orientation to the world, are really what we're about in sociology. So, as I say, these skills are equip you to enter a whole range of diverse career paths, research, academia, teaching, the civil service, even HR, management. Some of our graduates go on to even get jobs in tech firms. If you look at firms like Apple or Google, Facebook, and Twitter, they all have social scientists and sociologists on their teams, particularly those that have quantitative skills and quantitative skill set, but not exclusively. A friend of mine who did a PhD in Dublin a few years ago, got a job at Xbox designing video games on the basis of her qualitative sociological skill set. She was employed to try and make the relationships between characters in a specific Xbox video game more believable and more credible and more realistic on the basis of her sociological knowledge and qualitative skills. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more and give you some examples of some of our graduates who have gone on to get jobs at the end. So in addition to that and the skill set, we also have a very supportive environment for students. And I think this is something, particularly if there are parents watching this, or if you want to talk to your parents about this, sociologists in general and the team at Queen's tend to be nice people. Okay, we tend to be very open to students. We tend to try and listen and support students, and we're kind of student orientated in what we do in our teaching. But we also have a scheme, kind of it's a university-wide scheme, and it's one that we take very seriously within the sociology team, and that's our personal tutor scheme. So this is a key feature of the undergraduate program in sociology. This basically is a form of one-to-one support and guidance for students that follows you from your first week in first year right through your degree pathway for the 3 years of your undergraduate degree. Basically, it's a form of kind of one-to-one mentoring between a member of staff, a lecturer within the sociology team, and the student. Okay, so you're assigned a tutor, a member of staff who is your personal tutor at the beginning, the first week, and there's a whole series of structured meetings between the personal tutor and the student throughout the first year and in the second year as well, where basically they check in with the students to see if they're all right. Now, these are focused on different things. So one key aspect is the academic development for the students. So basically, for example, after the first year, the first semester exams or essays and assignments are in, there is an important meeting that happens usually in January of the second semester with first year students, where the personal tutor reviews what's happened, how the student has got on in terms of their results and their essays and their exams, and can then guide them towards further supports in the university if they're needed. If people need extra help with essay writing skills or and other support programs, the personal tutor is the key kind of conduit that guides students towards these wider supports. But the academic aspect is only one aspect of this relationship between the personal tutor and the student. They also kind of advise and discuss things like career and career prospects, what people should do to, help themselves get their CV right. What do they want to be when they grow up, conversations and so on. And then the personal tutor can kind of advise people, okay, maybe you should volunteer here or do this in the summer so that you can build up your CV to get into this particular area of work if you're interested in that. But they also have a kind of a pastoral aspect to the personal tutor scheme as well. So personal development and well-being are a key aspect. So if things start to go wrong for the student, if the student faces personal or financial difficulties, the personal tutor is there again as kind of the first port of call for the students, especially in first year, but also in second year and third year. And that's a key aspect of what we're about, so that we can guide people towards other support services if they're necessary, if they're required. I want to stress how important this is to us as educators, as lecturers, and as sociologists. This is something that we really believe in, and I think it's important for people to know that students are not just thrown in alone in first year, that there are supports there for students at the school level and across the university, and the personal tutor is a key aspect of that. Okay, so I mentioned that we have world-class staff, and I just want to give a couple of examples of this, I guess, because some of our lecturers really are outstanding. And the people that are teaching you on the sociology program at Queen's are internationally recognized and internationally renowned sociologists. Okay, one example might be just this week announced as Professor Katie Hayward. She was a reader last week. She was promoted to professor this week. And Katie is an expert and an award-winning expert on Brexit. She's particularly interested in works on the border and the peace process, and the effects of Brexit on the peace process and on the border in Ireland. So she's in addition to being a professor here in sociology at Queen's, she's a senior research fellow for the organisation UK and a Change in Europe. She's advised the Westminster Parliament on the impacts of Brexit on Ireland and Northern Ireland. And she's a key expert really on the implications for trade and other things of Brexit here. So she's a key person and she will be teaching you if you come to study with us at Queen's. But all of the sociologists and the teachers that you will have if you come are very internationally important and internationally recognized experts. Professor John Nagel works on social movements, especially in divided or violent societies. Veronique Altglas and Gladys Ganiel both work on the sociology of religion, but in different ways. Veronique Altglas works on kind of exotic or new social movements in terms of religion. So things like yoga and Kabbalah are key kind of research interests for her. Whereas Gladys Ganiel tends to look at religion in the Northern Irish and Irish context, so the relationships between Protestants and Catholics and so on, from a specifically sociological perspective. I've mentioned my own work on politicians. I'm especially interested in, for example, crying politicians. Why and when do politicians cry? They seem to cry much more than they used to. Why are they crying so much? And what does that do to how we perceive and listen to what they have to say? Emotions are fundamentally bound up with authenticity for politicians. And that's something I'm working on at the moment and have published on before. So the key point here is that the people who are teaching and lecturing in sociology write the books that you will be studying on the courses, right? So some other universities are very teaching focused. And so because Queen's is a Russell Group research intensive university, that means that we are highly active in terms of research and teaching. Okay, so we have many of our classes are research led in that sense. One other feature of the sociology program, and specifically to the school, Social Sciences Education and Social Work School that we're in, was one of my own ideas. And so I'm proud of it. And I want to talk about it a little bit just for a minute. And that is the sociological cinema. So one of the things that we developed is a relationship I developed was between the sociology team and the QFT, the Queen's Film Theatre. It's the cinema, the kind of independent indie cinema that is on campus here, very close to the School of Social Sciences, where most of your classes will be. Every month, we tend to try and screen a film at the QFT, and that's usually followed by a short talk or a panel discussion or a Q&A with the audience and somebody else about that tries to draw out the sociological themes and concepts within the film. As I keep saying, sociology is about the world around you. It's fundamentally an orientation to the world around you and a critical kind of questioning orientation towards that world. Cinema, in particular, documentaries, but also films, also cartoons, reflect sociological themes and sociological concepts. And by critically looking and reading films through a sociological lens, using the sociological imagination, we can kind of speak to some of the themes and concepts that you're studying about in your classes as well. I've gotten some money. Every year I get a little bit of money so that I can pay for tickets for students. So sociology students at Queen's get free tickets to go to the cinema once a month to engage in these discussions and watch these films. So that's something to bear in mind as well. Okay, I want to look very quickly at the kind of things and the kind of courses you're going to be studying on the course. Here, I'm mainly focused on the single honours course, but you can study sociology at Queen's as a joint with criminology, with social policy, with history, with English. I'll show how that looks as well. But I want to talk about the single honours sociology in particular for a couple of reasons. It gives you the basic idea of what sociology at Queen's is about, and there's some key features to the single honours degree that I'm interested in kind of sharing with you. So in first year, you get a basic introduction to sociology. If you see on the screen, year one, semester one, and semester two, that's what I'm talking about. Now, many people will ask, oh, I haven't studied sociology before. I didn't study sociology for my A level. Can I take it up? Will I be at a disadvantage? You won't be at a disadvantage. Our key introductory course, Rethinking Society, is geared towards people who have no prior experience. Okay, it won't hurt if you've done an A level. Some of the ideas will be familiar maybe to you. You will have heard some of the names before, but it's completely different. No, if you haven't studied sociology previously, you will not be at a disadvantage. So what we do is we bring people in and we kind of build up from the ground up, right, with a introduction, Rethinking Society. But in addition, when you come in to study sociology, even the single honors sociology program, you study other disciplines and other approaches as well. You can study Introduction to Social Policy, visualizing the social world. We also have Intro to Criminology. In semester 2, the sociological imagination is the kind of core sociological intro course that is especially geared towards social theory in its second half. But in the first half, you read actual books of recent sociological research. So the essay for the first half of that course is a book review. So students must read one of, I think, 5 books. One is Modern Love, for instance, by Aziz Ansari, the comedian, that was written with the sociologist. And it's about contemporary dating using like Tinder and stuff like that. So that's what we use books like that to look and explore and reflect on sociological research, sociological explanation, and ideas and concepts in sociology. There are many other books there as well. You can look at some of those on the website, I think, for further details. But in addition then to the core kind of sociology course, you take other courses. You can take a course in social policy, in criminology, but you can also take other courses from outside the faculty, outside the school in the rest of the faculty. So you can take an intro to anthropology. You can take some politics courses if you like. You can take some theology courses if you like. And Celtic studies and in other areas. So there's a whole series of options that you can take, especially in first year. In general, for each year, you have to take 3 modules per semester. So 6 modules in the year. That's the basic division there. So 1 or 2 will be core that you have to take, and the rest will be options, and that's every year. Okay. So that's the first year. Again, as I say, if you haven't studied sociology before, don't worry. It's not important. We bring you in, we build you from the ground up. Okay. In second year, the key thing about the second year in sociology, especially the single honors course, is kind of trying to embed core skills. So theory and methods. The second year and the core courses in second year are about social theory and research methods. Okay. So semester 1, you will get me, the power of social theory. It is the best course you will do in second year because I do it. It's a good course. It's a very intellectually stimulating course. And I use the concept of power specifically to explore the development of social theory throughout the history of ideas by focusing on power, but on a general introduction to social theory. But you also do then quantitative research skills, which is kind of a key core research skills module in quant, and we have many lecturers on the team that are very expert because of the relationship with the Q step that I mentioned in quantitative skills. But then we can look at things like Northern Ireland. We look at things like gender and migration. We can look at things like welfare in theory and practice if people have an interest in social policy. Semester 2 then, qualitative research skills is the core methods, and social inequalities and diversity is the core sociological kind of module in semester 2. So it's inequality in various ways in terms of gender and intersectionality, in terms of housing, in terms of the economy and wealth and income inequality are all viewed through a sociological lens in various ways. But you can also look at things like environmental crime and justice, the sociology of conflict and peace, and a quantitative theory course on called Theory Counts as well. So that's first year and second year of the single honors program. Okay, general introduction in first year, core theory and methods with some options in second year. In third year, the core feature of the single honors program comes into its own, and that's the research project and dissertation. You can see it there, sub 3007. So this spans 2 semesters. You have it's kind of stretches across semester 1 and semester 2. So it's a double weighted module. In that course, you're assigned a supervisor at the start of the year. You come up with a research question and a research project in consultation with your research supervisor. And then you go and do it, basically. So you come up with some research questions. Past examples, I've had people looking at gun shootings, mass shootings in the United States, and media representations of mass shootings. I've had other students look at social anxiety as a research project as well. There are many things you can do. Here, once you have your research question and your research project, the key aspect is that over the course of the 2 years, or the 2 semesters, you design and design a project, collect data, interpret the data, analyze the data, and write it up as a dissertation. It's a key aspect of the single honours program because only single honours sociology students and single honours students more generally can take the dissertation. If you do sociology as a joint with history, English, social policy, or criminology, you don't have the option of doing the research project and the dissertation. So it's a key feature of the single honours program in particular. And if you have an interest in the future, maybe to work in research, to work in academia, and in general, if you're interested in kind of conducting research for yourself, I recommend considering the single honours program for that reason alone. Then, so in third year, would you have a core research dissertation project across the 2 semesters? Everything else are options. All of the other choices are options, and then we have many options for you to choose from in semester 1 and semester 2. There's the sociology of religion option that Veronique Altclass teaches. Again, it's research-led. Norms and Social Change by Lisa Smith is a research-led option course in semester 1 of third year. You can take a course on family and intimate relationship with Dr. Kate McNamee. Again, it's research-led. There are other options as well, such as disability in society and some others. In semester 2, you can take an option course in contemporary Irish society, Northern Ireland and the South. There's a global risk society option. And then the best course, the best module across the 3 years is, of course, my own new module, which ran for the first time last year, Emotions, Power and Politics. And that is the Political Sociology of Emotions course that I kind of briefly mentioned earlier. That looks at the rise of contemporary populism and the use and deployment of emotions by politicians across the board in the world. It's not just kind of limited to Ireland and Britain, but it also looks at Bolsonaro in Brazil, Trump in the US. We even touch on Hindu nationalism in India and many other places as well. I'm really excited about this course. It's brand new and I think it's very interesting, but I better not go on too long about it. Okay, so that's basically the course content. And what I've looked at is the single honours program. But as I said, you can take sociology as a joint with social policy, and you can see some of the options in the here, or with history, or you can take it with English. History and English are on the slide at the moment if you want to look at that. And again, it's just the core of the program is similar to the single honours, except you take either history modules or English modules very often, where you would take options modules on the single honours program. Again, these are very popular courses if you have an interest in either English or history. And the sociological imagination actually can add to understanding of English and history. So it's something I would recommend as well. You do not, the thing is that you don't get to do a dissertation. You don't get to do the research project in third year. That's the key difference. Okay. We have one other key feature of the program that I want to mention, and we have, in conjunction with the QSTEP people and teachers and lecturers that we have on the team, we have an exit pathway in quantitative methods. Basically, what this means is that you can magic your BA Sociology, your Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, into a Bachelor of Science in Sociology with quantitative methods. Okay, and it's very easy to do this. So you can come in and start on a single honours sociology program, say, and convert that into a Bachelor of Science in sociology with quantitative methods. There are many reasons for you to consider this, particularly if you have an interest and aptitude in quantitative methods. Right, we exist in the very data-rich world, as you particularly know, even more so than old fogies like me. We're saturated with data. Every click, every like, every time you open your phone and scroll through Facebook or Twitter, you produce data, and we are kind of drowning in social data. The problem is that the computer scientists aren't very good at understanding or analyzing this data. They don't have the sociological imagination. They don't have the training, the critical creative, engaged training in sociology and the social sciences to dig into that vast big data world to ask it interesting questions. They're kind of limited just in producing graphs and statistics, but behind the graphs and statistics are relationships, concepts, and ultimately social explanations. What the quantitative methods course is about is kind of taking the sociological imagination and applying it to the world of big data, particularly technological data, but other forms of data as well. Now, there is a huge demand for social science graduates that have these quantitative skills. The tech companies that I mentioned, Facebook, Google, and so on, Amazon, all of them, are very interested in having social science graduates that have this quantitative skill set. So if you have that interest and you start at the beginning in first year with very little introduction to quantitative methods, and that builds in second year and third year, it's definitely something to consider. The team at Queen's are excellent and recognized at their teaching of quantitative methods as part of that Q-STEP program, and they're very hands-on in their teaching. So they use real data, real live social data, and kind of cutting-edge methods and approaches to study that data. There's a kind of a big focus on small group teaching and flexible learning environments in the teaching of quantitative methods, and these are very innovative teaching methods as well. So how does it work, John? Basically, you start your degree. Let's say you're doing a BA single honor sociology, but you could be doing a joint sociology and social policy, sociology and criminology. You can graduate with, as I say, a Bachelor of Science, sociology with quantitative methods, etc. How do you do it? You complete 4 modules over second year and third year, right? Actually, I just see a typo there. It's 4 modules in total. It should be. So you take, I think, 2 in second year that are quant, 2 quant modules in second year, 2 quant modules in third year, and that's it. You've magicked your BA into a Bachelor of Science. And there's no commitment. So you can say, hey, look, I think I'm interested in trying out this in first year. At the end of first year, you can say to one of your lecturers, your personal tutor, hey, I'm interested in maybe trying out this quantitative pathway, this exit pathway. I'm not sure about it, but I'd like to give it a go. No problem. Give it a go. All the modules you do anyway count towards your degree. So they all count. And if you decide to not do it, you do 1 or 2 in the first semester, let's say, of second year, you don't have to continue on. You can say, actually, no, you know what? I don't like it. It's not for me. You just go back into your single honors BA program or your BA joint program instead. So again, it's something to consider and something to think about. Okay, so that's the quantitative methods Q-STEP exit pathway. So how do we do it? Jonathan, you made sociology at Queen's sound absolutely fantastic. I love it. I just want to go. You're great. Crack altogether. Right. It's not that onerous to get into the single honor sociology degree or any of the sociology degrees, really. In terms of A-level, the entry requirement is BBB. Okay, so that's quite doable for many students, and these are popular courses. It's also BBB for most of the joints. So if you want to do the joint sociology and social policy, it's BBB. Sociology and history is BBB. Sociology English is BBB as well, with a little caveat about A-level English. The only one that is slightly different or higher is the sociology criminology, and that's ABB. Okay, and you can see some of the things for the single honor sociology with quant methods, but that doesn't apply anymore. So BBB is the basic answer. If you have something else, you can look on the website. If you Google sociology QUB or Queen's University Belfast, you'll get the single honor sociology page, and there's a whole ream of what you need if you're coming from the south of Ireland, if you have a Leaving Cert or a BTEC or any of those things as well. But the basic A-level requirement is BBB and its equivalents. Okay, I mentioned some of the jobs that sociology graduates get, and many of our graduates get jobs either straight out of college, but increasingly, and the increasing norm is that people have to do something else afterwards. So the new norm is that you study your undergraduate degree, your BA, your BSc, whatever it is, and then you do a 1-year master's or a 1-year conversion degree or a diploma or something like that, 2-year master's or whatever, to kind of specialize in something. And this is something that many of our graduates do, although some do go straight into work as well. So if we look at some of the kind of jobs that people get here with sociology degrees, Hannah Louise Kinnan is a data analyst, and she had the kind of quantitative methods pathway. Lauren is a statistics officer with NISRA, the Northern Irish Statistics Research Agency, and many of our other graduates have gone there, I think, in the past as well. Anna Savage did the single honours BA in sociology, and she's working in the Belfast Health and Social Care Trust. And one other pathway for many of our graduates is the pathway that Matthew has taken there, is to continue on for further study, maybe in sociology, in research, or in academia more generally. And Matthew applied for funding, and he's working on a PhD in sociology at the Minshall Institute. Some of our other graduates, we can actually see quite a few people work at Queen's University Belfast, having studied sociology at Queen's. Helen Hart is Director of Operations of the Faculty of Arts. Martin Byrne is Marketing Manager for Douglas and Graham, and he did sociology and English. Sociology and politics graduate Trevor Johnson is head of careers at Queen's, and Victoria Hale did criminology and sociology, and she's a trainee manager at health and social care in Northern Ireland. So any kind of a career where you're interested in people or studying people or looking at explaining social life in people's lives, a degree in sociology can be good for that in particular. As I say, for most of the world and most of courses that you do now in university, the expectation is you will do a 1 or 2 year add-on course after your degree. For this reason, I think what this means is that you should really, and my recommendation is that you should really study something you're interested in, should study something interesting for your primary degree, and then you can specialize afterwards as well in HR, in journalism, even in social work. If you do a BA in sociology, you can do a conversion course and get into social work kind of by the back door after a year or two further study. I think that's the way that people should be looking at their primary degrees now, because if you can get a good, solid primary degree, 2-1 first, in something that you're really interested in, passionate about, something you like and something you're good at, you can specialize practically in anything with just a very little further training, a 1 or 2 year master's or so on. That's something to think about as well, and for parents to think about too. Okay, that's basically it. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box. You can get in touch with me directly. My contact details are there. Just one final thing I would say is that if you're thinking about studying sociology at Queen's, people very often ask me, what should I do? Is there a book you'd recommend and so on? I have loads of books I could recommend. But my basic recommendation, if you're interested in sociology, it's about you. It's about your head. What you need to try and maybe start doing, if you haven't already, as a young, intelligent person, is orientate yourself towards the world around you, because that's what sociology is about. What's going on in your neighborhood, in your family, in your peer group? What's going on around you? What kind of power, how is power being felt in the world around you? How is inequality being felt in the world around you? Maybe start reading the newspaper. Maybe start watching the news if you don't already. The world around you is what sociology is in the business of explaining and understanding. So an orientation, and maybe an increasingly critical and evaluative orientation towards that world, where we question common sense, we question assumptions, is really the key orientation to doing well in a sociology degree. Okay, as I say, if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch or post them in the chat box. And I hope to see you in Queen's soon.